She's the countess who sang about class and elegance. But Luann de Lesseps has a dark side that goes way beyond cabaret. From violent arrests to stealing from her own children, marrying a known cheater, and breaking probation repeatedly, the woman behind the cool persona is anything but classy. On Christmas Eve 2017, Luann was arrested in Palm Beach, Florida, in one of the most violent housewife arrests in Bravo history. She was charged with 4 felonies: battery on an officer, resisting an officer with violence, and 2 counts of threatening a public servant, plus disorderly intoxication. According to the police report, Luann was found highly intoxicated in the wrong hotel room at the Colony Hotel. When security tried to get her to leave, she refused. Police were called around 9:20 at night. What happened over the next 4 hours was absolute chaos. Luann physically hit at least 1 police officer. She threatened officers by saying she was going to kill them all. According to court documents, she kicked a police officer. When officers tried to arrest her, she resisted violently. She slammed a bathroom door in an officer's face, which she later claimed was an accident because she was trying to avoid being arrested. The arrest report described Luann as smelling of alcohol, having slurred speech, and appearing highly intoxicated. Her behavior was so aggressive and threatening that she faced serious felony charges that could have resulted in significant prison time. In her own recounting on Rooney, Luann admitted she was kissing a man in what she thought was her hotel room. Security and a maid found them there. Even when security told her it wasn't her room and showed her evidence, including a BlackBerry she didn't own, Luann refused to believe them because she was too drunk to process reality. The most chilling part of Luann's arrest was her threat to kill the police officers. According to the arrest report and later confirmed in footage shown on Rooney, Luann clearly told officers that she was going to kill them. This wasn't a casual comment made in frustration. This was a direct threat against law enforcement officers who were simply trying to do their jobs. The threat was serious enough that she was charged with 2 counts of threatening a public servant, which are felony charges. On the footage from her arrest that aired on Rooney, you can hear Luann saying these words. She was so intoxicated and out of control that she made death threats against multiple officers. This goes way beyond typical drunk and disorderly behavior. Years later, when tried to downplay the severity of her actions by calling the arrest a form of bullying against her, she told In Touch Weekly that being arrested for being drunk in her own hotel was absolutely bullying, except it wasn't her hotel room and the officers were responding to her trespassing and refusal to leave. After her arrest, Luann pleaded guilty in July 2018 to misdemeanor charges of battery, disorderly intoxication, and trespassing. The felony charge of resisting an officer with violence was dropped as part of her plea deal. She was sentenced to 1 year of probation, 50 hours of community service, and was required to attend 2 Alcoholics Anonymous meetings per week. Most importantly, Luann was ordered to completely abstain from drinking alcohol for 1 year. This was a court order, not a suggestion. Breaking this condition would violate her probation and could land her in jail. But in May 2019, Luann was taken into custody for alleged probation violations. She had to appear in court to address allegations that she violated her parole. While the specific violations weren't fully detailed publicly, the fact that she was arrested again while on probation showed she wasn't taking her legal obligations seriously. In an interview with Daily Mail TV in June 2019, Luann admitted her struggles. She said she struggled with alcohol like everybody does, except she had no room for error. That's a very difficult way to live under the spotlight, she explained. But here's the thing. She chose to violate her probation. She chose to put herself in situations where she might drink or break her other conditions. After her initial December 2017 arrest, Luann checked herself into an alcohol treatment center, but she only stayed for 21 days before leaving. 3 weeks is barely enough time to get through detox, let alone address the underlying issues that led to her violent drunk behavior. Then, in July 2018, Luann was supposed to attend the Rooney Season 10 reunion. Instead, her co-star Bethany Frankel announced that Luann had chosen to skip the reunion to re-enter an alcohol treatment program. This was her second stint in rehab, but once again, Luann left the facility after just under 3 weeks. She didn't complete a full program. She didn't stick with long-term treatment. She checked in, stayed the minimum amount of time to make it look good, and checked right back out. This pattern showed Luann wasn't serious about sobriety. She was doing the bare minimum to satisfy public perception and maybe her legal requirements, but she wasn't committed to actual recovery. Real rehabilitation requires months, not weeks. It requires honesty, vulnerability, and dedication. Luann demonstrated none of that. In March 2022, Luann was filmed taking over the microphone and saying obscenities to the crowd at a piano bar in New York City, suggesting her alcohol issues continued years after her arrest and probation. In July 2018, Luann's ex-husband, Count Alexander de Lesseps, and their 2 adult children, Noelle and Victoria, filed a lawsuit against her. The lawsuit accused Luann of breaching her 2009 divorce settlement by failing to create a trust for her children. According to the divorce agreement, Luann was given their marital home in Bridgehampton, New York. The stipulation was that she had to set up a trust for their children and fund it with half the interest in the property. This was part of the deal. Alexandra gave her the house on the condition that their children would be protected. Instead, Luann sold the Bridgehampton mansion in November 2014 for $8 million. She used the money to buy a $3.1 million home in Sag Harbor for herself. She never created the trust. She never gave her children the half interest they were entitled to. She kept all the money. The divorce agreement stated that if she sold the marital home, she could reinvest the proceeds to purchase another residence, but the children would continue to be owners in trust of an undivided 1/2 interest in the new property. Luann ignored this completely. According to court documents, Luann threatened to sell the Sag Harbor home for more than 50% of its present value and leave Suffolk County with the proceeds, so she could purchase a luxury home in upstate New York for herself alone. She was planning to take all the money and run, leaving her children with nothing. On the most recent season of Rooney, before the lawsuit was resolved, Luann admitted to being fixated on buying a mansion in upstate New York amid her relapse. She told her friends that she wanted that house more than anything and would have sold her soul at that point. That's how bad she was. Think about that. Luann was willing to sell her soul for a house. She was willing to violate her divorce agreement, steal from her own children, and destroy her relationship with her ex-husband just to get this property. Her children, Noelle and Victoria, along with their father, had to sue their own mother to get what they were legally entitled to. Imagine having to take your parent to court because she refused to honor an agreement meant to protect your financial future. That's devastating on multiple levels. Luann initially tried to blame her ex-husband for the lawsuit. She told People in August 2018 that the lawsuit was not about the children. It was about the ex. She said she had a little problem driven by the ex-husband who she wasn't happy about. She was trying to make him the villain when she was the one who violated the divorce settlement. During Rooney Season 8, Bethany Frankel received photos of Luann's fiancé Tom D'Agostino kissing another woman at the Regency Hotel in Manhattan. This happened just weeks after Tom proposed to Luann. Bethany showed Luann the evidence on camera. The photos were damning. They clearly showed Tom making out with another woman. This wasn't a misunderstanding or an innocent moment. Tom was cheating on Luann during their engagement. Multiple cast members, including Ramona Singer, said they had heard additional stories about Tom's infidelity. Any reasonable person would have called off the wedding. Any woman with self-respect would have ended the relationship right then. But not Luann. She defended Tom, attacked Bethany for showing her the photos, and went ahead with the wedding anyway. Luann married Tom D'Agostino on New Year's Eve 2016 in Palm Beach, knowing full well he had cheated on her. She chose to ignore all the red flags, all the warnings from friends, and all the evidence right in front of her face. She was so desperate to be married and have that fairy tale that she willingly walked into a relationship destined to fail. This wasn't just naive or hopeful. This was delusional and showed terrible judgment. Bethany wasn't even invited to the wedding after trying to save Luann for making a huge mistake. Luann punished the friend who told her the truth. After marrying Tom, Despite the cheating evidence, Luann then had the audacity to accuse Bethany of projecting her own failed marriage onto Luann's happiness. In interviews before the wedding, Luann suggested Bethany was jealous and couldn't accept that Luann was happy. She told the press that Bethany had a troubled marriage, got divorced, and had a problem getting divorced. Luann claimed Bethany was projecting and that Luann was fine. She was a grown woman who knew what she was doing. This was classic manipulation. Bethany had shown Luann photo evidence of Tom's cheating, and Luann responded by attacking Bethy's character and marriage. She made Bethany the villain for trying to help her avoid a disaster. Luann bragged to the press that she was the only one actually married on her and that the other ladies were just getting used to the fact that she was married. She said she was so happy and that Tom and she were great. She completely rewrote reality to fit her fairy tale narrative. Bethany responded on Twitter saying it was disappointing that Luann would exploit Bethy's challenging situation if it helped make Luann happy. Even then, Bethany was being supportive and Luann threw it back in her face. Unsurprisingly, Luann's marriage to Tom lasted only 7 months. In August 2017, less than 8 months after their New Year's Eve wedding, Luann announced they were getting divorced. Everything Bethany and the other women warned her about came true almost immediately. Luann filed for divorce after Tom went out and called up an old girlfriend. They met up with a group of people and Luann didn't know about it. She found out about it the next day in the press. That was the final straw for her. She couldn't do it anymore. So Tom continued his pattern of contacting ex-girlfriends and going out with other women behind Luann's back. The behavior that Bethany warned her about before the wedding continued throughout the marriage. Tom never changed. Luann just chose to ignore reality. In interviews after the divorce, Luann said this had been one of the toughest times of her life and that she had a sense of failure. She hated to fail. She woke up at night and her bed felt empty. But she brought this entirely on herself by marrying someone she knew was unfaithful. What makes this even worse is that Tom later claimed Luann had cheated on him first. For years, Luann has denied having a serious drinking problem. Despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, even after her violent arrest, even after 2 stints in rehab, even after violating probation, Luann still claims she doesn't have a problem like other people do. She told Daily Mail TV that she struggles with alcohol like everybody does. This minimizes the severity of her issues. Not everybody gets arrested for battery, threatens to kill police officers, and violates probation. Those aren't normal struggles with alcohol. Those are serious problems that require serious intervention. During Rooney Season 11, Luann was open about her sobriety journey and showed glimpses of her probation experience. But she also expressed frustration with the restrictions. She seemed to resent having to abstain from alcohol rather than recognizing it was necessary for her health and safety. After completing probation in August 2019, Luann posted on Instagram saying she was humbled and grateful for the life lesson and ready to put the past behind her. But putting it behind her meant she wasn't willing to examine why it happened or commit to long-term sobriety. She continues to perform her cabaret show in environments where alcohol flows freely. She surrounds herself with drinking and partying. She's never truly removed herself from the situations that led to her arrest in the first place. Perhaps the most infuriating aspect of Luann's attitude toward her arrest is how she's tried to shift blame onto the police officer who arrested her. She revealed on Ease Just the Sip that the police officer who arrested her, Deputy Stephen O'Leary, was later fired and went to jail for making false arrests against other people. Luann said this like it vindicated her. She called it karma and suggested that her arrest was illegitimate because the officer was later found to be corrupt. She told In Touch Weekly that the incident was absolutely a form of bullying and questioned whether she should have been arrested at all. But here's the reality. Stephen O'Leary was fired in 2019 and sentenced to 13 years in prison for making false drug-related arrests. He was caught planting evidence in narcotics cases. None of that has anything to do with Luann's arrest. Luann was caught on camera threatening to kill officers. She was recorded battering an officer. She was visibly intoxicated and trespassing in someone else's hotel room. Her arrest was legitimate regardless of what O'Leary did in other cases. Using Oli's later corruption to suggest her own arrest was unjustified is manipulative and dishonest. Luann is trying to rewrite history and make herself a victim when she was clearly the perpetrator. She's never fully taken responsibility for her actions that night. In 2021, Luann dined at Diplomat, an upscale restaurant in Washington, D.C., and left without paying the bill. This wasn't a case of accidentally forgetting her wallet. She finished her meal and simply walked out without settling her tab. Several days later, Luann paid her outstanding bill after the restaurant presumably contacted her or the story was about to go public. The fact that she only paid after leaving suggests this wasn't an honest mistake. She deliberately left without paying. For someone who sings about class and elegance, dining and dashing is about as classless as it gets. This is the type of behavior you'd expect from broke teenagers. Not a wealthy reality television star in her 50s. Luann had the money. She simply chose not to pay until she got caught. The incident received limited media coverage, likely because it happened during when other news dominated headlines. But it shows a pattern of Luann thinking rules don't apply to her. Whether it's stealing from her children, violating probation, or skipping out on restaurant bills, Luann believes she's above consequences. Luann's marriage to Count Alexander Diepz ended in 2009. He was cheating with royalty from another country. The embarrassment was public and humiliating. But what makes this relevant to Luann's evil side is how she exploited the situation. Luann used the pain of the divorce to market her book and herself. She turned being dumped via email for an Ethiopian princess into a storyline. She built her brand as the Countess even though she lost her title when the marriage ended. She refused to give up the name or the identity even though it was no longer accurate. For years after the divorce, Luann continued calling herself Countess and acting like she still had the title. This wasn't just clinging to the past. This was false advertising. She was pretending to be something she wasn't to maintain her image and marketability. Perhaps the most concerning aspect of Luann's story is that after completing probation in August 2019, she likely resumed drinking. The March 2022 incident where she was filmed taking over the microphone and saying obscenities at a piano bar in New York City suggested she was intoxicated. Her cabaret shows take place in venues where alcohol is served. She's constantly surrounded by drinking culture. She attends events where champagne flows freely. She's never removed herself from the environment that led to her violent arrest. Luann completed the year of court-ordered sobriety, but never committed to long-term recovery. She did the minimum required by law and went right back to her old lifestyle. This suggests she learned nothing from her arrest, her time in rehab, or her probation experience. True recovery requires lifestyle changes, continued support, and ongoing commitment. Luann has shown zero interest in any of that. She wanted to check the boxes, complete her probation, and go back to living exactly as she did before. The fact that she hasn't had another major public incident since completing probation is likely more about luck than actual change. Luann is still the same person who got drunk, assaulted police, and threatened to kill them. She's just been more careful about not getting caught.